I got the twist. Now, one of the things that's a bit missing right now is even though we have like the chest moving and that's looking nice, the spine itself doesn't feel like it's reacting to gravity. So the idea is like, just imagine if I kind of use my elbow as an example, if I'm pushing up on my elbow, my wrist, if my wrist doesn't react, it feels really wooden and mechanical. But if I show the little bounce right on the spine, it starts to feel connected. And that's what you observe when people walk. That impact and that reversal of direction affects the spine. So what we'll do is we'll look and see, well, how can I kind of weave that in on these controls? And what it usually means is I'm going to rotate the character a little bit. So that means that they're going to rotate in reaction to that. And the usual way you approach this is you think in opposites. So when the hip is going down, the drag would be up. So I would rotate things up. So if I take the hip and it goes down, if you just imagine just sharply yanking on something like that, then this would react by pivoting up, right? So it'd be like, whoa, right? It's just like somebody snaps, right? And just really pulls on you really hard. But this is a little bit more toned down. So what I'll look at is, okay, if I'm going down, right, I'll sort of look, where's the high point? When I go up, then I would do the opposite. So if the hips push up, I'll rotate down. So I'll give that a try, and I'll start with just this upper control and see if I can figure that out. And the channel I'm using, it's rotate X. So let's look at that in the graph editor. There's rotate X. You can see I haven't touched it yet. So it's going to be a bit odd. It's going to just pop in different places. So I know I'm going to go here. I'm going to reach this high point. And then when I drop down, maybe here, then I'm going to rotate back. So again, we're going to get something like a pendulum. There, and then I'm going to go down again. And then when I get to this point, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go like this. Just have to match that. And then again, the same idea, the contact, that one and that one, this one and this one, they should be the same. Right? Now, I usually do this in a very, very broad, goofy way, just so I can see the movement. This doesn't feel very believable. And I'm just checking the pattern. I just want to make sure, does this feel like I'm getting the right idea that it's going up and down and reacting to the hip? So I'll just frame by frame a little bit. Yeah, I like that. So this is really good because it feels like there's that impact that's happening. So I really like this part. And then the way that I go here, I can experiment and I can say, well, maybe this point here, I could adjust it. There, that's looking a little more interesting. And then it's just a question of the amount. I could just scale this way down. Let's use the scale tool until I get something that I like. I may discover that I don't like how far back I'm rotating. So I may just, again, adjust the whole thing forward so that I don't do this, because that's going to cause the geo to break right there. So I'm just sort of finding a place where I can dial this in. It's like, yeah, I like that. That helps. That makes it feel a little bit more organic. And if I want to really test it, I'll say, well, let's try and do more extreme. Right? And this is where the arms can be very distracting. I love it when they have a rig where you can hide the geo. I don't know with this rig if you can you actually grab the arms? I'm going to turn off this. I just want to grab the geo. Ha. And then throw that into a display layer. And then grab this one. Throw that. Oh, I missed the finger there. Throw that into the same display layer. Then turn it off. Yay. Then I'm just looking at the spine. And this is so important to be able to do because the arms will just distract you. And that starts to feel nice, but I'm guessing this is just too much rotation. It's a great idea, but it's just way too much. So at least I like the idea of it. I'll just go in and scale it down and say, well, where do I not like it? Is it the back position, the front position, right? And where is that? Is that here? And then I'll just find some way to scale it down, just crunch it a little bit. And I might have to maybe move it forward, scale it, adjust it until I'm happy with it. Much better. Now, the middle trunk of the body is not doing anything. but it should do the same thing. It should do exactly the same thing, but maybe again, I'll offset a little. So I'll do the same trick. I'll copy this one because I already figured it out. And then I'll put it on this one. And again, just delete frame one, paste. And now they're both working together, right? So that's kind of fun, right? But again, is it too much? I don't know, right? Maybe it needs to be back a little bit, but it feels like way too much rotation. So again, I would probably just grab this and scale it down. Times equals, I don't know, like 0.3, just like super tiny. Let most of the rotation be on the chest. So I see it a little bit. And you can play the same game if you want. Right now, if I select both of them and you look at those rotations, they're exactly timed the same. Maybe the chest, I don't know, I'll move it a frame or two after. So there's a little bit of separation. Now they feel a little bit kind of disconnected, more overlap, looser, right? More fun. And then I'll do the same thing on the head because I have the constraint, even though this is here, the locator. So what would I do? I would paste it on the locator. Go here. And instead I would paste that onto the up and down because that's the only way I can't, it's not a rotation, right? The rotation won't do anything. I have to put it on this. So I'll put it on the up and down, see how that goes. Look at that. Boing, boing. So I just have to move this down and just sort of get the amount. And again, right? It's kind of fun, a little yo-yo head, but it's just the amount because rotations are big numbers, 50, 60 degrees, but translates are like 0.2, 0.3. So they're just on different magnitudes. So I have to just scale this way down and just look at the high position and be, okay, how much, right? So even here, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Grab that, and it's, right? So now I get that little bob, and even there, it's still so there. And it doesn't quite feel like it's working. I think it might need to be flipped. Let's do that. There. Oh my God, did it again. Better. Let's scale that up a little. I just want to be able to see. Better. Now I can actually see it. And then I would, again, cycle the curve. And maybe offset it a couple frames. Really nice. One frame over. So now it's like I'm just offsetting everything to kind of line up. And it's just, scaling the curves. Start with something that's ridiculous. And then hopefully, it'll make more sense, and you can grab any of these curves that you've played with and scale them way up and be like, yeah, let's try this. Let's make this. Is this rotate Y? Where's rotate X? This one, rotate X. Yeah, let's make this insane. There we go. There we go. Right? And it's silly, but when you look at it, that's kind of cool, right? Like I just did that in a second. Like, that's really neat. That might work, right? It may break my assignment right now, but it's like all these things you discover by accident. And it's like, oh, I'll try that another time, right? Because it may not work for the thing you're working on now, but usually you find stuff that you can do. Like, I'll do that later. Even just playing around with the rotation on the hip. I haven't even moved that, but this you could use to lean the character forward, right? So you could use this to just lean them forward, right? You could use that to lean them back, right? And all of a sudden you have this very different attitude, right? Right, just always hang on. It is not math. There's no equations, right? They're shapes, and the shapes have meaning, which is good. So that if you can latch onto anything, it's just understanding what the curve means. When it's steep, I change a lot. When it's flat, I barely move. So you go look at all those places. I'm changing a lot here. That means I'm speeding up. That means either I'm rotating faster or I'm moving faster. Is that what I want? And you can still go in here and play around with the curves. You can try using this TR Auto, right, that I have here and see if that works better to smooth out the curves. I still don't know why the default in Maya is the way that it is, but this one I just enjoyed using a lot more. I would map this thing to a keyboard shortcut. So every time I was splining it. The thing that I'm doing here is I am kind of jumping into spline a little early, and that's just something I got used to. I used to work in linear almost all the way to the end, but other animators encouraged me to try like jump into spline a little bit sooner. I know you're a 2D guy and you love to block and do all your in-betweens, but try a little bit to lean on the graph editor a little bit more and see how you like it. So it's like almost forcing me to animate in a different way. And that's the only way to learn, right? Is to just force yourself to try to use the graph editor a little bit more.